the show as well. But right now, let's get to the Daily Fuel, starting with Daniel Suarez. Now, he has been fined $50,000 for his actions post-race at COTA. Suarez, who was unhappy after being spun out on the first restart of overtime due to contact from the 48 car, drove into the back of Alex Bowman, as you see, and his teammate Ross Chastain on the cool-down lap, which spilled onto pit row where there were multiple officials and other people around. Suarez then engaged in an animated conversation on pit road with Chastain and Bowman. In addition, the National Motorsports Appeal Panel decided to amend the Hendrick Motorsports penalty for unapproved parts modifications from race weekend at Phoenix. Now, the $100,000 fine and the 4-race suspension for the crew chiefs of the 4 Hendrick cars has been upheld, but the points penalty has been rescinded. So each team gets back the 100 owner points and the 10 playoff points. And with that, also important to note that the appeals will be heard next week for Colleague and Denny, so we're waiting on those to see what happens. But joined now, as promised, by Clint Boyer and Andy Petrie. And first and foremost, these guys have been chomping at the bit to weigh in on what we heard today. So what's your first initial reactions?
Well, here we go. Hey, here it is, and I'm just going to say it. I am not surprised. When this first came out, you know, and here's the toughest part about this appeal. We don't know why they appealed it. We don't know what was said or done to...
Yeah, we weren't in the appeal.
Well, I wasn't on the jury.
But this is why you appeal it, because you never know, and it worked out great for Hendrick.
But in my opinion, and the reason I'm on here is for that opinion, I said from the word go, I was like, did they ever compete with this thing? This thing was taken off the car before the race weekend even started. It wasn't even in an actual official inspection process.
Let's keep Clint off the appeals panel from forward.
It wasn't qualified. It wasn't raced. Every other instance of this penalty from the past was competed with and obviously had a competitive advantage.
I mean, I don't, like I said, I wasn't in there, so I don't really know what their grounds were for overturning the points part of it and keeping the other side. So, I mean, I don't really understand that. I'm not sure that I even agree with it. It should be all or none, in my opinion. Like if they're going to rescind it, rescind the penalty, or the whole thing, not just pick and choose what part of it that they feel like is appropriate. That's where I come from on it.
All right. That's it.
Well, I mean, there's probably more to it. I just don't, you know, if you want to talk about the parts, the pieces, the way NASCAR officiates these cars is they kind of have control of that car as soon as you get to the garage. It's pretty well written that if you show up with any, it doesn't matter whether you've qualified with it or raced with it or whatever. But if you have that on your car, then, you know, you're subject to any of these penalties that are spelled out in the book.
Right.
Okay, well, the appeals panel has a different book than NASCAR, apparently, because, you know, they decided that it wasn't worthy of a points penalty. And so that's where we stand with it. And I think, you know, for Hendrick, they got to be pretty happy about it.
Well, at the end of the day, that's all you know. You know, you don't know the facts of what was presented and what wasn't, but you know the decision. It was reduced. Yep. And, you know, obviously they felt like the penalty didn't meet match the crime. So as a competitor, Andy, where do you go from here?
Well, I think it probably does make you, I would say, less nervous about some of these things, right? Because not necessarily are you going to get the hammer, you know, for something little. Maybe you just appeal it, maybe see what happens. Yeah. I think NASCAR's going to probably double down on it, though. They don't like losing these things.
No,
you know,
I just feel like there was too much meat left on the bone. I guess that's what I'm saying there. You know, it wasn't just
apparently the case for NASCAR was not strong enough to survive that appeals panel's decision.
If you knew that was on there, in my opinion, if it's my sanctioned body, go ahead and run it and get them at the end. That's where I feel
you'd have waited till after the race.
We already knew they had it on there, I think, right?
I don't agree with that either.
I don't even know that that's exactly what's wrong. That's the problem with this appeal deal. It's over. We know the result, but I don't really know exactly what.
So now, do they get these loopers back? Because they're pretty short supply right now. Are they legal or illegal? Can we run them?
We can only run half of them.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing. Right now, it sounds like we have more questions than answers. Some answers we do have, and that's the statements we heard earlier today. So let's start with a statement from Hendrick, and here's what they had to say. We are grateful to the National Motorsports Appeals panel, that is, for their time and attention. Today's outcome reflects the facts, and we're pleased the panel did the right thing by overturning the points penalty. Now, it validated our concerns regarding unclear communication and other issues that were raised. We look forward to focusing on the rest of our season, beginning with this weekend's race at Richmond. All right, let's continue with the statements, and this one's NASCAR statement to the HMS appeal. We are pleased that the National Motorsports Appeals Panel agreed that Hendrick Motorsports violated the rule book. However, we are disappointed that the entirety of the penalty was not upheld. A points penalty is a strong deterrent that is necessary to govern the garage following rulebook violations, and we believe that it was an important part of the penalty in this case and moving forward. We will continue to inspect and officiate the NASCAR garage at the highest level of scrutiny to ensure a fair and level playing field for our fans and the entire garage. So after you hear that, do you feel like maybe with what happened, they're taking away NASCAR's ability to police the garage, Andy?
I think it does kind of dull their sword a little bit, because if you look at that, we don't know the facts. He said that, Hendrick said they presented these facts and they felt good about how they acted on this. We don't know what they were, right? What did they present? What were the reasons for lowering the points part of it, keeping the other ones, keeping the suspensions in place? But yeah, I think it does a little that, you know, NASCAR's got a really strict policy when it comes to this car. And they said from the very beginning that when we go out here with this new next-gen car, we're going to have, it's going to be, don't touch it. You don't touch anything on it. And if you do, it's going to be big penalties. So they put these big penalties out there. And this one kind of, you know, it did lessen the severity of it. And maybe it does change a little bit of how much control NASCAR really has on it.
Well, that's how you got to this point in the first place. You know, you got away with an inch, now you're away with a foot.
And that's what they're trying to, they're trying to move away from that.
That's what the vision behind the car, that was the good thing about this car. All bought from the same catalog to put the pieces in. But there's been some layers of these pieces and parts over the years, even dating back to last year.
I mean, like I said, they got a part they can sit on the table and put your part right next to it. And if it's not the same, there's something wrong. Right?
Well, then we got another appeal coming next week that, well, we only had part of it on there. We only had one side on, not the other. Wonder where that one's going.
So if you're NASCAR today and we just saw the statement, how are you feeling about what just happened? You got to be a little upset or what?
At the end of the day, this is what it boils down to. All right, we're enough of the appeals. We know the process. We know what the penalty was. We know it was been reduced. This is the way I see the thing. It was taken before or after practice. They didn't compete with it. They literally borrowed somebody else's louvers.
We gave them some.
Borrowed your louvers, hung 3/10 on you in qualifying and won the race.
So it didn't.
I'm done with talking about louvers.
Performance.
Absolutely
Obviously,
not.
Hendrick Motorsport's been fast all year long. This is not going to change any of that. And I honestly think that the points penalties that they had in place were going to not help them, but I still think they could have overcome it with their performance and still, you know, obviously make the playoffs. I think all the teams are going to win. They're going to be strong and have a great chance at the championship. This does help them at least to be a little more comfortable as they move forward to get into the playoffs.
The key is a gray area. Are you going to push it next time because of this penalty reduction, or are you going to get nailed even harder next time?
But I tell you, NASCAR does not like losing these things. I bet you that they're sitting back there now. How do we strengthen the next case? Where did we go wrong? What was weak in this that this appeals panel saw that wasn't strong enough? And they're going to go and fix that, fix the rule book, and then make sure. I don't think that they've given up, and you can see by their statement, they're still going to be very, very vigilant on taking these cars and keeping this playing field level.
I agree. Definitely have to.
All right, let's look at the updated standings now as a result of the appeal and the amendment. So you see William Byron getting those 10 playoff points back. He has 14 points now. Alex Bowman now moves up. He's plus 82. He's the highest driver without a win. And then Kyle Larson now moves into 11. So if you're over at Hendrick, you got to be feeling much better today, guys, right?
Yeah, you're much more comfortable.
Yesterday.
At least they're not parked on the backside of the garage anymore, and their trucks are parked up where they belong because they've really run well all year. So it puts them where they can focus on winning races and trying to maximize their chances for the championship.
Oh, there's no question. It's definitely moving back in the right direction. And you have to say that the 24 car, the way he's been running, and the 5 on tracks like this, they got to be your favorite still. So it'll be interesting if they can get through the old tech lane and still have the same result on the other end of it.
Well, guys,
time will tell.
We'll talk about that more later on in the show, but let's talk Daniel Suarez now. And if you missed what happened at COTA, here's the reason he got penalized from what happened post-race. Check it out.
about that. Go get him next week.
Where's the 48 under one?
Like second and fourth, man. I don't know if you'll be able to get to him with all the traffic.
Let's be calm. We can always address it later as well.
All right, so we now know Suarez has been fined $50,000 for that, no points penalty. So how do you feel about the ruling after seeing what he did?
Well, and I don't mean to be Debbie Downer. I picked a bad day to put on the race. But that's what I get paid to do. And
what do you really think, Clint?
I think it should have been even steeper.
Yeah,
and the reason is because of that official. Yep. We all know there's a safety element of this. What we do on that racetrack is one thing. You've got helmets on, you're contained in safety seats. You see that official highlighted over there. That could have been very, very dangerous and ugly on that behalf. You have to lock this down. This cannot happen on pit road where those officials, you're after the race. I watched, Tyler Reddick's kids and family. You never know what's out there.
Oh, I mean,
no
you were
chance
probably on
this
pit
needs
road,
to
right?
happen on pit road.
Yeah,
you were there. I was there. Clint was safe up in the booth, so he didn't have to worry about anything.
And I love Daniel, right?
But Daniel had to pass. He passed like 25 cars on the cool-down lap. That might be the hardest lap he ran the whole race.
And at the end of the day, he said he's going to whoop it. We didn't play that. He said he was going to whoop their butts. Just do that, man.
That's what we were waiting for.
You want 50,000 fans. Instead, you paid 50,000. Fix it out of that car if you're going to be on pit road. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you got to keep the guys safe on pit road. That really is the bottom line. And I think if this stuff happens on the track, outside the entrance of pit road, yeah, probably let it go. But not, once they start doing that, I can see the people standing there. It's not safe. It really isn't.
Yeah, tough deal.
Hey, we're just getting started. I'm going to let you guys keep cooking out here. You guys are just fired up for this show. We'll still